Wow. Thank you so much. For those who are watching on the video, Asha just sang Be Thou My Vision, and it is my absolute favorite song you have ever sung. The first time, this is the second time she has sung it at One World. The first time I was taping it, and I was back there and I could not believe it. It was so beautiful. So the reason I'm going through this is, if you're watching online, watch it. It will blow you away. It's just beautiful. Thank you so much. So today we are starting our series on healing. And it's great that it comes after our mindfulness series, because mindfulness is so much a part of what brings us into a state of wholeness and health and healing. So I'm looking forward to this. Well, the way this series is going to run is, next week we're going to talk about healing personally, about healing when we are feeling broken. The week after that we're going to talk about healing our families. The week after that is Mother's Day. And we're going to talk about healing through relationship and through love and through connection. And the week after that is Jeannie Ward, and she's also going to talk about healing. And after that, we're going to talk about healing our planet and healing our world. So one of the things that I would like us to do as we go through this series is just think yourself what healing means to you. As these talks or as your discussions kind of raise these questions in your mind, I just want you to give some thought as to what that looks like for you. Being healed or healing others. What does that mean to you? And let's talk about it. Every Sunday we get together at 10:15 out in the foyer, and we have an adult discussion. I'd like to devote those discussions to that, to talk about what we see when we think of healing and what it means to us, how we heal ourselves, how we heal others. So let's make this a rich time. So I find that everybody is seeking healing in some capacity, whether it's emotional or spiritual or physical. I think we all are, at different times in our lives, seeking healing for different things. When we as spiritual beings incarnated, became flesh in this world, really what we did is we signed ourselves up for all the lessons of this world. We signed ourselves up for all the experiences that being in these bodies teaches us. And part of that is what happens to us when we are on this physical plane. We sicken, we get tired, we get discouraged, we suffer loss, we suffer guilt, we fail, we die. All those are experiences that are sent to us to help us grow, to help us transform, and help us transcend. In the midst of it all, we get up time and again, and we hope, and we heal. So my premise this morning is a hopeful one, because we are a hopeful group, and it is this. Whether we know it or not, whether we feel it or not, whether we in this moment experience it or not, we always live in a healing stream of life and wholeness and health that is around us, that suffuses us, that runs through us, and that expresses as us. We are always in the healing stream of life. We can't remove ourselves from it. We can't step into it because we already are in it, any more than we can stop the stream from flowing. It surrounds us, it sustains us, and it invites us to wholeness and health and healing. Our opportunity is simply to know it and to claim it. So my title this morning is taken from Eyre Butterworth's book called In the Flow of Life, and particularly from the chapter called The Healing Stream. Isn't that a great image? The healing stream. My only problem with that image is I think of a stream as a small thing, kind of like a little bubbling brook. And the healing stream is huge. It's a dynamo. There is no place that it's not. It's more like a healing Niagara, but we're going to call it a healing stream. We are all part of it in terms of being healed ourselves, in terms of healing others. There is no way to escape it. Our only challenge is to know it. We are never removed from the movement of that source energy that is constantly creating, constantly destroying, constantly building and recreating, healing and renewing. So Eyre Butterworth describes the healing stream as, quote, an eternal reality. There is an allness even within the illness. There is an allness. There is a wholeness, even within the illness. The whole universe is within you, and its flow is ever the reality of you in a fundamental sense, no matter what the incidentals may be. And it is this reality of wholeness that is the key to the constancy of the healing and renewing process in the body, even when you do nothing or know nothing about it. It's the reality of wholeness that is the truth of the healing process in our bodies, even when we know nothing about it, even if we don't believe in it, even if we are completely oblivious to it. The healing stream is constant. It does not arise only when you affirm it, only when you pray about it, only when you think it. It is true. It is simply true like what? Like gravity, like electricity. Gravity doesn't work because that day I decide to believe in it. I can't suspend it. Same true with electricity. I plug something in, it works. If the current is flowing, it doesn't matter, it doesn't care what I think about it, or what I know about it, or even if I believe in it. So Butterworth observes that Western medicine especially was slow to accept the influence of attitudes and emotions on the functions of our body. What we now call the mind-body connection wasn't always taken as true. It's funny, he talks about medicine focusing on the study of, for example, cadavers. You remember when doctors, and I guess they still do, study anatomy and physiology and the body by studying cadavers. You're studying life by analyzing death. I guess that teaches you anatomy, but it doesn't teach you much about life. This Western idea of a separation between the mind and the body was called dualism. We used to think that there was no connection, that the mind was completely separate from the body, so doctors just treated your body. They didn't really care a whole lot about what you thought, what you felt. Eastern cultures and Native American tradition follows a theory that is called monism, which is really a more holistic view. They realize that the mind and the body are connected. There is a conversation going on. There is an exchange of energy going on. And we knew this from our studies in manifestation. You remember all that? What we think, what we believe, so significantly impacts our world and our environment, and particularly our physical health. So the implications of this are huge. As I was researching this, I ran into an article called, and I thought this was fun, called Rethinking the Placebo Effect, How Our Minds Actually Affect Our Bodies, by a lady named Maria Popova. Is everybody here familiar with the placebo effect? You have a control group, one group takes the pills that actually work, the other one is told the pills work, but they take sugar, we kind of see what happens. Okay. In the study she did, she wrote that it's always been assumed that the placebo effect works because subjects believe the pill that they are taking is the actual medication, it's not a substitute. That's how it works, right? Okay. Harvard Medical School did a study in which there were two control groups of people who were suffering from IBS, or irritable bowel syndrome. And one group was given the medicine, the other group was given a pill which they were told was not any medicine. They were told it was a sugar pill. They were told it had nothing in it at all. But they were also told that taking these fake pills had been proven to produce significant improvement in symptoms. So go ahead and take it. So, in other words, they knew the pill had no medicine. It was just sugar. However, despite knowing that, the participants who took that pill rated the improvement in their symptoms as significant. Just by taking that, just by taking something, even if they knew that it wasn't the medicine, improved their physical condition. That was a staggering implication of the mind-body connection, and we know this is true. I mean, we know it from our energy healers, right? We know that just through the transmission of energy from a set of hands, from a heart, from a person to another, we can see health returning. We can see positive changes. That is due to modalities other than physical medicine being performed on somebody's body. We know that there is so much more than we previously thought there was. Butterworth writes that each of us is a flowering of the universal creative process. Each of us is in a flow of wholeness wherever we are and as we are, despite what he calls the incidentals of our lives. The creative power of the universe is expressing as us, and health is our natural state. Isn't that sometimes hard to believe? That health is our natural state, but it's true. Because what we know, especially those of us in New Thought, what we know, is that even if we are ill, even if we are suffering physical symptoms, we know that at bottom our essence is that of wholeness and that of health. The healing stream is an eternal reality, and we are carried along by it and surrounded by it. When we become aware of this truth and claim it, we claim our innate wholeness and our innate health. So, I think we've all heard the story of Unity co-founder Myrtle Fillmore, who wrote our reading for today. As you know, she suffered terribly from various illnesses. When I did my research for this, I actually found out what they were. It was more than tuberculosis, and I also learned that back then there were different illnesses that everybody called tuberculosis, so I'm not quite sure what she had, but she had stomach problems, she had respiratory problems, she had gastrointestinal problems, she was pretty sick. She was not supposed to live a very long time. Her father was also sickly, and so people said, well, it runs in your family, so you're just not going to live that long, so get used to it. She had been told that she was going to die. However, in the spring of 1886, she went to a lecture of a Christian Science practitioner from Chicago, Dr. E.B. Weeks, who was presenting a series of lectures in Kansas City. She went, and in the space of an hour, she writes, her life changed entirely. She wrote, "There is nothing in human language able to express the vastness of my possibilities as they unrolled before me. The physical claims that had been considered such a serious nature faded away before the dawning of this new consciousness. And I found that my body temple had been literally transformed through the renewing of my mind." What are we saying there other than the mind-body connection? Her body temple had been transformed through the renewing of her mind. In another letter she wrote, "It was such a wonderful time for me when I awakened to the truth that God is my Father and that I inherit from Him only that which is good." Remember the story about Myrtle? She walked out of that lecture and she said, "I am a child of God and I do not inherit disease." And that was an epiphany. And so what did she do? Did she go home and just kind of cogitate on this and maybe journal about it? Oh no, she did not. She refused to accept as true the idea that she was ill and that she would soon die. She got active. She got going. She began to, as she called it, teach her body that it was well, vibrant, and alive. She did it kind of organ by organ. It's very interesting to read about. She focused on her liver, and she told it that it was full of vigor and energy and life. She told her stomach it was vibrant, intelligent, and alive. She spent hours doing this, very actively. She wrote, "I went to all the life centers in my body and spoke words of truth to them," capital T, words of strength and power. "I asked their forgiveness for the foolish, ignorant course that I had pursued in the past when I condemned them and called them weak, inefficient, and diseased. I did not become discouraged at their being slow to wake up, but kept right on, both silently and aloud, declaring the words of truth until the organs responded." Isn't that amazing? I mean, she knew that they would respond. I mean, she did this for hours a day. Now, do we all have hours a day to do this? Probably not. But we have to consider how she approached it. Her story is absolutely legend. She was supposed to live, like, what, 6 months? She lived another 40 years. She was always teaching about the power of our own ability in faith to access this healing stream that originates in the source that she called God, but that we can call spirit, creative mind, creator, source. So what did Myrtle do, and what does this teach us? She changed her thinking, she believed, and she acted out of that belief. She didn't stop with prayer. It's interesting, she wrote that prayer and even affirmations are not enough. They're just not. We learned that in our manifestation series, didn't we? She wrote, we need to harmonize our thinking and our prayers with actual living experiences. We need to get up and do it. We need to step forward in the knowing I almost said as if we know, and that's wrong. We need to step forward knowing that it is true and it is who we are, the truth of our being. Thoughts, belief, action in harmony with those beliefs places us in the healing stream of life and health. And here in New Thought, we just know that to be true. In the Bible, there are many stories about healing, and one of my favorites is found at Matthew 9:20 through 22. This is the one where the woman by the well. Do we all remember that story? Jesus and his disciples are out walking, and the Bible says, as they were going, a woman who had been suffering from hemorrhages for 12 years came up behind him and touched the tassel on his cloak. If only I can touch his cloak, she thought, I shall get well. Jesus turned around and saw her and said, courage, daughter, your faith has restored you to health. That very moment, the woman got well. So what happened here? Jesus didn't just heal her, although God knows the Bible could have had him do that. I mean, the writers of the Bible have him parting the Red Sea. They have him raising Lazarus. They have God parting the Red Sea. They have Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead. They have God stopping the sun in its tracks. They could have had Jesus just healing this woman, but they didn't. It would have been a small matter. But that's not what happened. What did he say? He said, your faith has made you whole. She stepped up, she believed, and she acted. She said, yes, I can be healed. Okay, now, I referenced the story about the woman at the well. That was not that. I want to tell a different story about the woman at the well. I read an article as I was getting ready for this talk called Deep Well and No Bucket. It was a fun article. But what it talked about is sometimes we are in a place where we just need sustenance. We just need support. And we are standing, we feel right next to it. There's a deep well of water, but we have no way to access it. We just have no way to get to it. And so the story of the woman at the well is that Jesus comes up and he tells her, you don't need that water. Listen to me, I am the living water. And so what does this teach us in a metaphysical sense? It teaches us that when we feel we are in the presence of lack, when there is something there that we just cannot get, we are standing right next to it. It is there. It is accessible. We don't have to fear that we cannot get the deep water in the well because we have no bucket. We are standing next to a resource, a spring of life that supports us and sustains us always. So, as I was thinking about these stories, the woman who touched Jesus, the woman at the well, Myrtle Fillmore, I thought, what strikes me about these stories? What is it that is different about these stories that makes them useful for us? Myrtle Fillmore declaring words of strength and truth. The woman touching Jesus' cloak declaring that she could be healed. What did they do that we can do that placed them squarely in the healing stream? I think what they did is they kept their channels to spirit open, and they declared their willingness for God's healing power to work. They believed and they hoped and they knew that God's healing power would work in them. They proceeded in faith, in the knowledge that they are, as Eyre Butterworth wrote, in the ceaseless flow of transcendent life. They accepted the gift that is always being offered. They did not focus on the problem. They did not focus on being ill. They did not focus on lack. They did not focus on loss. What they did is they kept their sight on wholeness. They moved toward health. I want to be healed. She didn't say, I want to be healed because I'm sick. She focused on the positive, on the fact that healing was coming, healing was there. They did not waste their time resisting the problem or focusing on the problem. And it's true whatever the problem is, whether it's illness, whether it's loss, whether it's guilt, whether it's fear. There are two ways to approach it, and that's what I think these stories tell us. We can focus on the problem. We can say, I wish I wasn't sick. I wish I wasn't in fear. I wish this wasn't happening. Or we could change our thinking and we could move toward something positive. I want to live in joy. I want to live in transcendence. I know that I am whole. I know that I am healed. Do you see the different energy? When you are trying to tap into the healing stream, the power of the creative mind, we cannot look at it from something we want to avoid. We have to look at it from something we are going toward, something that we affirm. What have we heard it said? We can either be pulled by vision or pushed by pain. Which is stronger? Being pulled by vision always beats being pushed by pain. These folks were positive, affirmative, energetic, clear-eyed, and optimistic. They were moving towards something. That's how we remain in the flow. As Eyre Butterworth writes, we don't get health. We live because we are health. We are embodiments of it. And that's the energy that we need to claim. One thing I want to take away from this is I want us all to see the difference between focusing on lack and focusing on the gift. Because if we continue to focus on those things we want to avoid, we will not move toward what we are claiming. One is a positive wellspring of vitality and health, and the other is a quagmire based in fear that we just won't be able to step out of. But we have a choice as to how we look at it. We can anxiously hunt for health, but what happens when we do that? What happens is we're consciously affirming that we're sick. I am sick. I need to be healthy. Okay? What am I just telling myself? I am sick. No. What we tell ourselves is I am whole, and I am healed, and I am well. And then I act in accordance with that knowing. I always remember a quote I heard attributed to Mother Teresa, and this is not about healing, but I guess it could be in a way, when she was asked if she would attend a rally against the Vietnam War. And what did she say? She said, I will never attend an anti-war rally. If you have a peace rally, invite me. So what was she saying? I will march for peace. I'm not going to waste my time marching against anything. That is the useful way to look at it. The same is true of the power of healing. It's not activated by a consciousness that is set in resisting. Healing occurs in a consciousness in which we claim wholeness and health and declares it as true. We are children of the infinite Creator, and it doesn't behoove us to think that we are anything less. So, what does that mean? If we are suffering an illness, does it mean that we have done something wrong? That we are not in the flow? You know, this is kind of a risk in New Thought, because we can sometimes kind of metaphysical ourselves into that, can't we? We think if we're sick, it's because we're not thinking the right thoughts. We think it's because we're not in the flow, we're not consciously affirming, we're not doing all the things I just talked about. That's not true. And this is an important point, and we need to know it. Because I have seen, and I'm sure you have too, so many people guilt themselves into, oh my God, why did I get this? I must be doing it wrong. You know, the woman who said, I just lost 2 jobs, I must be thinking wrong. Well, no. We're in physical reality. That is not how it works. We have all seen instances of people who were wonderful, giving, positive, developed, devout, whatever the word you want to use, who have contracted illnesses from which they perhaps don't recover. We have seen young people die. It doesn't mean they're doing it wrong. If this happens to us, it doesn't mean that we're doing it wrong. And I want us to get that idea out of our heads. That's not what it means. Regardless of what Butterworth called the incidentals of our lives, we remain in Spirit's healing stream of support and love, always. Does it mean we're always cured? Well, we know the answer to that. Because healing does not always mean a cure. Healing does not always mean a physical cure. We are in physical reality. We just are. And sometimes we sicken and die for reasons that we just do not know. Questions like these are not easy. And actually, they're one reason that communities like One World come together, where we put our hearts together and our wisdom together to share our answers as to why this happens. You know, here in the West, we always want to know why. We want to wrap it up in a neat package with a bow and say, this is the answer. We want theology to answer these things for us. Nobody from up here is going to answer these questions for you, because that's what we do here. We get together and we figure them out together. We share our own answers. So, you know, it's funny. When I was thinking about the healing stream, I realized that it is so pervasive. It is so everywhere that we can look at the circumstances of our lives and see it always. Let me give you an example. We have here at One World in the Roswell Conscious Living Social Group, we have a book club. And last month we met and we decided we were going to read this book. It's called Same Kind of Difference as Me. Same Kind of Different as Me. And it's by two guys named Ron Hall and Denver Moore. It is a wonderful book. And we picked it just because we thought it would be a cool book. But you know what it's about? It's totally about healing. I mean, I have been reading this book. I have finished the whole book. Last time I showed up for book club, I hadn't even read the book, which is a bad thing. So I have read the whole book, and I'm up till like 1 o'clock in the morning sobbing over this book. It is a beautiful, beautiful book, and that's all it's about. It's about these three people, two men and a woman, and they meet because of their relationship with this woman named Deborah Hall. And I invite you to come to our book club because we're going to talk about this, but it is just a transformational book. But one of the guys is an entrepreneur, very wealthy. He's the husband of Deborah Hall. The other guy is a homeless guy who comes from nothing, who had a very difficult life, but is wise and funny and deeply harmed in the beginning of the book. And the book is about how he heals, how the couple heals, and about how the three of them all come together to basically heal each other. In the course of the book, Deborah contracts cancer and she dies. And the question is, how can that be? How can that terrible event happening to somebody who's 55, how can that be a source of healing to anybody? How can it be an event that enables people to go on? And what one of the characters, Denver, says is that sometimes we don't know why people are taken. And sometimes people go because it brings other people together, because so many people came together and built such wonderful things as a result of this woman's life and her work. A homeless center, multiple relationships, multiple connections occurred because of this woman's life and also because of her death. And so sometimes we just don't know, and sometimes it doesn't end up happy. But that doesn't mean that we are still not children of light and in God's healing presence. So how do I explain this? Just for me? For me, as I stand here today, I just accept that I can't see over every horizon. I just can't. However, accepting that we are all in the healing stream or in the healing Niagara helps me walk toward whatever that horizon is, which with courage and hope and faith. I don't know how my story runs or how yours does. I don't know what's going to happen to me or how what happens to you is going to impact any of us. I just don't know. If you believe in the idea of soul contracts, I know that when I incarnated on this world and when you did, we completely lost sight of all the deals we made. We just started out, and we didn't know what contracts we signed up there. We're just here to live them out and learn from them. But what I do know is accepting the joy of living in the healing stream. It doesn't mean we are always physically free of illness or pain or loss or certainly not death, because we are all headed that way. It does mean that wherever the stream takes us, it's a place that we were ultimately meant to go, bringing us greater awareness and enlightenment, and ultimately bringing us home to a new life. So these are questions I want us all to consider over the next several weeks. They're huge questions because all of us are so involved in healing on so many different levels. But what, again, I'd like you to consider as we move forward is just what healing means to you and the different things which you think need healing in your life. So let's take these thoughts into meditation.